Now let's see how economic planning works in India. In India, this can be divided into two parts. The first part may start from 1951-52 to 1990 or 91, and the second phase may start from 1991-92 to the present day. In Indian economy, the public sector and the private sector they coexist. That's why it is known as mixed economy. Now, when we talk about the first phase, the public sector was a leading one. Because at that time, the industry has to do many works for the society, and it also accepted the goal of the socialistic pattern of the society. So that's why at that moment the public sector was a leading one. In the first period or phase of economic planning, what were the major objectives that were taken? The first was to increase the rate of economic growth. Second was to give importance to the application of modern technology, which is very much required. Third was to attain self reliance. And the fourth, to secure social justice. But during this period, the rate of growth of the Indian economy was not that satisfactory due to certain factors, like the Chinese aggression, which took place in the year 1961 to 62, the Indo-Pak conflict 1965, poor rainfall, and rapid political changes in India. So, due to these factors, it was not satisfactory. Whereas, on the other hand, the average rate of growth was only 3.5%. But on the other hand, there was a growing contribution of service sector like banking, insurance, transport, business, etc. to India's national income. In what sense? Because it was 28% in 1950 to 51, whereas this increased to 40.5% in 1990 to 91. So there is a vast difference, whereas 28 and whereas 40.5%. So in the service sector, there was a huge growth, but on the other hand, in the economic sector, in the economic growth, it was not satisfactory. On the other hand, the contribution of agriculture to India's national income also declined from 59% to 34.9%, which was a huge one. India also witnessed the Green Revolution in the mid 60s, which is increase in agricultural output brought about by the application of modern technology to agriculture. So you will be thinking that if Green Revolution was there, then why there is a huge fall in agriculture? It was so because the Green Revolution was limited to a very few states in India, like Punjab, Haryana in particular, and also very few crops like paddy and wheat. It was not that widespread. The Green Revolution had not spread that much. It was only the starting period. It was only the initial period or the initial stage of the Green Revolution. So that's why there was a huge fall. So we have seen what are the various changes that took place in the first phase. Now, coming to the second phase, that is 1991-92 to the present day, what were the various changes? In this period, the importance of liberalization, privatization, and globalization has increased to a vast extent, and the importance of the public sector has declined. Now, why has it declined? There are three important factors which have brought about such a significant change in the Indian economy. The three reasons for public sector's downfall has been briefly written to the left side of the book. You can check it out. So the public expenditure was much more than the public revenue. For example, if your monthly income is rupees 10,000 and if you spend almost 12,000, 13,000 for your luxury, then it would be a loss. You will not benefit much. So also was the case in the public sector. The second was the price rise. So you can see in this line, in 1990, out of 244 public sector units, 58 were sick units. Why sick units? The industries cannot be sick. So it has been termed as sick because it was facing much loss. That's why it was not working properly. Many others were making loss. And secondly, the high rate of inflation. Now, what's the meaning of inflation? It means the price rise. So, socially and economically backward people with limited income were badly hit by the price rise. Third point is India's balance of payment position was highly disturbing. The inflow of funds into India was on the decline. So in short, we can also say the balance of income was disturbed. So remember the 3 points that has been written there. Next, on the contrary, there was an outflow of capital from India. So there was an outflow of capital from India, which means there was more import and less export. So import and export, I think so everyone are clear, you're not confused with this. Import, that means to bring the goods, to buy the goods from outside, to bring into India, and export means from India you are sending the things outside. So there was more import where you have to give a huge amount of money to the country outside, and there was less export. From here you are sending less amount of goods outside. So that's why, due to these few reasons, the public sector was declining. It was not satisfactory. By observing these things, the World Bank had recommended the structural changes in the Indian economy. So, the Narasimha Rao government at the center decided to introduce the economic reform measures in India. So, economic reform measures, that means to reshape or to restructure the economic system so that there will be economic development. And these measures have encouraged the process of liberalization, privatization, and globalization in India, which we would be reading in the next page. In order to improve the economic conditions, many reform measures had been taken by the government, but these did not benefit the people because there were much fluctuations in the growth rate. In the year 2005-2006, there was a growth rate of 9.5%, 2006 to 7, 9.7%, 2007 to 8, 9.2%. But again, this fell down. In the year 2009, 10 to 2012 and 13, this growth rate was only 6.7%. The latest economic survey has put it at 7.2% for the year 2013-14. So we can see there were much fluctuations. In the very beginning, it was a high rise, then again it fell down, and again it rose up to 7.2%. Secondly, the wholesale price index has shown a downward trend. Thirdly, the foreign currency reserves with the Reserve Bank of India has increased considerably. The amount was $328.7 billion in the year 2015, which can only finance 7 months of import into India. Whereas in the year 1990 to 91, the amount of foreign exchange reserve was so small that it could only cover 15 days of import. So again, in the left side, you can see it's written briefly. Reform measures, growth rate increase. Again, it fell down, and again it increased. Then next, the wholesale rate, it was down. That means it fell down. The foreign currency reserve, it increased. Again, 1990-91 less. That means it could only cover 15 days. Whereas in the year 2015, it was a high amount which could cover at least 7 months. Apart from all the downfall of the economic growth, the reform measures, there are also many problems associated with the economic reform. The intensity of competition has increased so much that unless more purchasing power comes to the hands of the government, the benefits of economic reform will be limited. That means the competition, the growth has been increasing, but if there is no purchasing power, this will be of no use. The second point is excessive consumerism may lead to the erosion of social values where money power will be all pervading. Or we can also say that excessive consumerism may lead to the erosion of social values. So it may lead to the downfall of social values again. Thirdly, the management of globalization has assumed importance. So all this time, the management of the globalization was not there, but now it has increased. It has assumed importance. Fourthly, good governance will be of crucial importance in delivering the benefits of economic reforms, particularly to the weaker sections of people in the society. So, not only the higher sections of the society should be benefited by the economic growth, but also the weaker or the lower section of the society should also be benefited. In the meanwhile, there has been a welcome move to increase the bank accounts in the country. So, if the people are benefited, so more and more bank accounts should also be made. To say in brief, economic growth and development should go hand in hand, where each and every individual of the society should be benefited. During the second phase of economic planning, the three most important points that has come to light are liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Let's see the first point, which is liberalization. Economic liberalization means lessening of the degree of state control in the economic system of a country. Liberalization means giving freedom, and economic liberalization means there were some sectors which were controlled by the government long time back. That means prior to 1991, the government used to play an important role in the sectors like industry, finance, foreign exchange, dealings, trade, investment, and etc. So these sectors were now given freedom, and then they were given the permission to work on their own. The permit and license policy of the government was a main instrument of the government control. So the government mainly controlled the permit and the license. But on the other hand, as a part of the economic reform measures, so in order to take some reform measures, what did the government now do? Their control has been lifted in a large number of industries except liquor, cigarette, hazardous chemicals, industrial explosives, electrical equipment, drugs, and so on. So these are still some goods or some factors where the government still control. Defense, atomic power generation, and rail transport are reserved for the public sector. So these are the sectors again where it has been left for the public sector. The financial sector is composed of commercial banks, investment bank, share market, and the foreign exchange market. Whereas, on the other hand, in the liberalized Indian economy, the foreign banks have been allowed to enter into India's banking sector. So remember what are the various points that have been said in this particular topic. So you may get a question where you may be asked to write a note on liberalization. So remember what are the various points that you have to mention when you get this topic. The next topic is privatization, which comes from the word private. Privatization is opening up of the sector units to the private sector. The Industrial Policy Government of India 1991 has opened up 9 public sector units to the private sector. So remember, 9 public sector units has been converted or it has been opened to the private sector. So that's why the topic is privatization. Now, one form of privatization is disinvestment. Disinvestment by whom? By the government. Because if the share is given to the private sectors, then how can the government participate? So that's why disinvestment means the sale of the shares of the public sector units to the private parties. Thus, the entire amount of capital that is necessary for the public sector unit is not supplied by the government. A part of that is contributed by the private individuals, or we can also say the shareholders. Derived from the word global is globalization. This means the integration of the economy of a nation with the economies of the rest of the world. So when one nation cooperates very well with other nations of the world, that is called globalization. Now, globalization is a result of privatization and liberalization of the economy. So below you can see L plus P equal to G, which is also LPG. This will be liberalization plus privatization is equal to globalization. A country that avoids integration with the world economy is an inward-looking country. Its economic isolationism is known as autarky. So remember, whenever there is in a country, if there is any country which does not follow globalization, which does not want to share its knowledge with any other country, they may be known as autarky. So globalization reduces the distance among the countries of the world. The use of information technology and the internet have also speeded up the process of globalization. So these days, digital marketing has come to a much emphasis. And that's why it has been said that information technology and internet has speeded up the process of globalization. The countries of the world are moving towards a borderless world because globalization has created a very competitive environment in which both the consumers and the producers tend to gain. Globalization does not pose any threat to national interest. No country should think so because it does not sacrifice the economic sovereignty, language, literature, and culture, because it reaps the benefit of globalization without sacrificing the national interest. Here comes the last topic of the chapter, which is current 5-year plan of Assam, which started in the year 2012 and ended in 2017. 2017 was the year where the Planning Commission had stopped working and it was replaced by Niti Aayog in the year 2015. So that's why this line has been said. This transformation has taken place right in the middle of the 12th plan because Niti Aayog started working from 2015. Now let's see what were the various objectives of Assam's 12th plan. First was to raise the rate of growth of the Assam economy to 10% in the next 2 to 3 decades in order to remove the gap between Assam economy and the economy of the development states in India. So that means in comparisons to other states of India, Assam has taken the pledge that 10% should be increased in the next 2 to 3 decades. That means 20 to 30 decades. 20 to 30 years, I mean. Now, second point is to adopt various schemes for poverty removal. So they also took steps in order to remove poverty. Third, to tackle the problem of flood and erosion with the latest technology and scientific management. Flood is a very big problem in Assam during the monsoon season. So that's why steps had also been taken in order to remove this thing or to improve by taking the latest technology and scientific management. The fourth is to raise the annual rate of growth of agriculture from 6% to 8%. Fifth, to achieve self sufficiency in power generation and to apply modern technology in power supply and distribution. So, in the case of power generation, they wanted self sufficiency where they wanted to work on their own and apply modern technology in power supply and distribution. Next is to raise the value of Assam's Human Development Index and accordingly increase the amount of investment in health and education. So, by checking the HDI of Assam, they wanted to improve the sectors like health and education. Next, to lay emphasis on skill formation in order to expand the opportunities for self employment and promote the growth of micro, small, and medium industries, including the traditional cottage industries. So here importance is given to the skill development of the individuals for self-employment and also the all the sectors of industries like micro industries, small, medium industries, and also traditional cottage industries. Next, to preserve the biodiversity and to tackle the problem of climate change. This is a very important measure that they wanted in terms of environment. They wanted to take in terms of environment. Next, to take up measures to ensure good governance in the state and the local bodies, that is, panchayats, municipalities, and so on. So, they also wanted to take a good administration, make a good administration in the local bodies like the panchayats, municipalities, and so on. So finally, the plan has accorded priority to rural development, which will include the development of agriculture and allied activities. On the other hand, the small and medium industries and the cottage industries. So it is hoped that such a strategy will help reduce the gap between the urban and the rural areas of Assam. So here comes the end of this very beautiful chapter. Stay tuned for more videos and do like, share and subscribe my channel if you were really benefited and I also remain inspired and encouraged to make more videos.